Welcome to the podcast of MotorWeek, television's original automotive magazine. MotorWeek is made possible by TireRack.com. Here's your MotorWeek podcast host, John Davis.
Hello and welcome to MotorWeek Podcast 151. I am not John Davis, rather Brian Robinson, writer here at MotorWeek. Our host, John, is off on a well-deserved vacation right now, so you're stuck with the three of us getting through this. It'll be me
stumbling.
Road test producer Greg Carloss.
That's me, and I'll try and help you out whenever I can.
Thanks. And Mr. New Guy.
New Guy.
Writer Garick Zikan.
Right.
Welcome.
Thank you. And I'm just going to try to coast along and maybe fill in between when Greg stops talking.
Hang in there, guys.
Take a break.
We plan to be on here for about an hour, so by about minute 30, we should be nice and rolling.
So this is a special podcast strictly dedicated to the LA Auto Show, which is going on this week.
LA Auto Mobility is how they advertise it now, as like the press days and things
exactly.
like that.
And the automobilities bring the technology and the auto world together because, as we know, in many of these vehicles, you're getting both.
Thank you for the clarification.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so you were wrong.
Yeah, since you guys both got back from there.
Right, although I did see advertisements for LA Auto Show, so I think you could still call it that.
All right. So before we get into actual vehicles, what was the overall mood of the show? I know we were on a kind of 4 or 5 year run where sales have been up. It's looking like sales are actually going to be down this year. So what was the kind of mood of the show?
The mood, it wasn't – the excitement wasn't there for me, and I talked to a lot of other journalists who kind of had the same feeling. There wasn't any – there were a few bigger launches, but nothing really, really major, so nothing to really get excited about. And obviously, if you talk to the folks at the manufacturers, they're always excited, but they kind of have to be.
Sure.
So, to me, I don't know how you felt. I just wasn't – it wasn't a bad show, but it wasn't great.
Right. How did you feel, Garrett? Share your feelings.
Well, it was my first auto show in an official capacity. I've been to them as a consumer, so I thought it was very interesting. And some of the press events I went to, were packed. The one for Alpha was packed.
They were probably giving away free stuff.
Yeah, that was
right?
the first one of the day too.
It
so
was
people had been lined up.
Right, exactly. And the one at Jaguar Land Rover, that was also packed too. So I thought there was a lot going on. Plus we only had one full day to try to get a lot done. So
yeah, we we've talked about this before, but the way they do auto shows now, and specifically LA, is they do a lot of the reveals the night before, or 2 nights before. So I was off at Chevy the night before, and then Lamborghini, and you were at Jag. And we had already by the time we got into the show, for most things we had already seen pictures at least, or actually witnessed the reveal firsthand.
Right, exactly.
So that takes away some of the excitement too, probably.
Right. And even I guess like the Alpha, we've seen that for like a year now. I mean, I went to the reveal of that like a year ago. Anyway, so let's get into the actual cars. What as far as production cars, what?
I'll start off with my very first reveal, which was on Wednesday night, which was the Chevrolet Colorado SR2. It's a off-road package, essentially. You still get a choice of a diesel engine, which is that Duramax, or you get the gasoline. You do get a new transmission now. It's up to an 8-speed auto. Off-road package, so you get beefier tires. I think 31-inch off-road tires are standard. The big news on that one is their suspension, specifically their shocks. And to get it right, it's their dynamic suspension spool valve shocks, which are different than most other shocks, and are actually the same they use in the Z28. But now this is the first time they've been used in a production off-road vehicle. And they're more precise. They can be a lot softer when you're off-roading. They can read what's happening. And then when you're on the road, they're actually very tight and allows for a much more comfortable and smooth ride. So that's the big news on that one.
But you definitely want to take it off-road.
Absolutely. It's a 2-inch lift. I mean, skid plates, everything. This is an off-road truck.
So it's kind of like a Raptor fighter, but in a smaller
smaller package.
Which is interesting because they don't have a true Raptor fighter in Silverado, right?
Right. So they went a little bit different direction, just made it smaller, which, we'll see.
It's probably better for off-road, right? You want less mass out there.
For sure.
What else?
Garick, that same night you were
I
at
like
Jag?
the IPace from Jag, and like you said, there was a reveal before everybody else saw the reveal. It's interesting. It's their first electric vehicle, and so they went big. It's an SUV, seats 5 people, 2 engines, one on each axle. Each of the engines is 200 horsepower, combined 400 horsepower. They made a point of showing us how they constructed it, which was very interesting. The batteries are under the floor, so that gives you a lot of room for leg room and capacity inside
and the lower
the
center of gravity, which
exactly
always helps.
Right. The design is unmistakable Jaguar. So you have that sleek look with the versatility of an SUV. It was interesting because their reveal, it was a virtual reality reveal. So they did it all on the goggles, and they took the goggles off, and there it was. So it was, in speaking with some of the other journalists who were there, a lot of people were impressed with the presentation on how they did that. So
was it a concept or this is a production vehicle?
It's a concept, but you can have it in your driveway in 2018.
I need a really long extension cord.
The name to me is just odd. Like, I know they have the F-Pace and they want to keep the pace going, pun intended.
Wow.
But the IPace just does not roll off the tongue very well. I don't know. Did they say that's going to be the name of it for sure, or is this just for purposes of keeping it within the family? And
well, they're referring to it as the IPace. So
it probably will be.
I would think so. I mean, the F-Pace, IPace, keeping it real.
Right.
All right,
keeping up the pace,
whatever.
like you said.
Yeah, and then later that night I hopped over to Lamborghini, and they had I want to say a smaller reveal. It's not small when you deal with Lamborghini. Everything's very glitzy and glamorous. But they had the Spider version of the Lamborghini Huracan. This is the rear-wheel drive version. So they came out with the coupe. Now this is just the rear-wheel drive Huracan Spider. So that was pretty cool.
Was there anything different? Just the fact that you can
just drop the top and 2-wheel drive now. They're all to the rear wheels, which the ones we've driven have all been 4-wheel drive so far.
Yeah. Supposedly they handle a little better because they're a little lighter in the front and steering a little better, but haven't driven one yet, so I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, and then I'd say the other big launches, the CX5, which is a huge seller for Mazda, follows the CX9, similar styling. If you look at them, it's like a father-son type relationship there. It's got 3 engines there. A few years ago, Mazda said they were coming over with a diesel engine, and here we are. Here we are 3-4 years later, and it's still not here. But now they're saying officially that it'll be here the second half of this year, and it'll be one of the engine options in the CX5.
And apparently there was a lot of interest there because I went back around later in the day, and there was still a crowd around that.
Everybody was doing interviews around it. It was tough to get what we needed to get done. But,
You're exactly right.
Yeah, that's probably one of the bigger ones. But go back to the IPace and probably its brother, the F-Pace. You went to the Alpha reveal of the Stelvio. Right. What'd you think?
Well, it's very impressive. They're getting into the demand for SUVs, so that was interesting to see that. Of course, Alpha is returning to North America, so this is their third vehicle. They had the 4C and the Giulia. So this kind of seems like the natural next step with the demand for SUVs, and this is actually a mid-size SUV, premium mid-size SUV. That was another one of those situations where even later in the day it was hard to get up close to get some good shots and to get a good look at it.
And this is based on the Giulia, right? Same platform?
Right, same platform. And this is actually there's a second vehicle on this new platform. So that's certainly interesting. Certainly, looks like an Alpha. So there's no mistaking it's got that styling. But again, it's kind of like the Jaguar and the I-Pace. You have the styling, but you have the more versatility and more room.
And you could still get a quadrifolio, which it's 500 horsepower, under 4 seconds to 60.
Right.
I mean, that's
right, exactly.
That's pretty awesome. Did you hear it? Did they start it up at all at the press conference, or did you hear anything?
I didn't get to hear the actual car because of all the other sound effects and things that go along with this. But sure, everybody wants to have the quadrifolio and all that horsepower. The standard is going to be 280 horsepower.
Turbo 4-cylinder, same as the Giulia.
Right.
I'm assuming,
Right, exactly.
All right, what else? Keep them coming, guys.
Let's keep going through the notes here. On this first page, I've got Jeep Compass. That was another fairly big one, I think.
I thought that was going to go away. Now that they have the
That's what
Renegade
everybody kind of just assumed,
Compass,
right?
Yeah.
But now they come back and they've answered the questions that we had years ago. We're like, well, let's make it more of a rugged Jeep. Now you can get a Trailhawk version. You can also get 6-speed manual in it, which is pretty darn cool.
And it's bigger than the Renegade or smaller than the Renegade? How does this fit in there?
I don't actually know the specs. I think looking at it, it looks like it's bigger, I guess.
Yeah, I would think it would fall in between the Renegade and Compass.
Right. They're still calling it a compact SUV.
Cherokee.
Right. So, yeah, they did answer some questions there. And, it definitely looks more the part of a Jeep now.
Right.
So I think they've got some excitement behind that one.
What's interesting about that is that it's truly going to be a global vehicle. They have 17 different powertrain options for markets around the globe. It's going to be built in 4 different countries. So, that the desire to have, more rugged vehicles, crossovers, SUVs, whatever it is, it's not just a phenomenon here in the United States. It's really global. So, and they're certainly, trying to tap into that.
Right. How about you? You got a list of your top things that you had a top 10.
I have a top 10, yes, which is going on our website. So it was a Jaguar I-Pace first, Alfa Romero Stelvio. I have second.
Are we going these 10 to 1 or 1 to 10?
I'm doing 1 to 10. That's generally how I like starting at the top and working my way down. Although this is hasn't been vetted, so the order can be based on your opinion.
This is personal.
Carry on.
Sure. Well, Mazda CX5, we talked about that. Volkswagen Atlas was there. Chevrolet Colorado, Greg spoke about that. Jeep Compass. Subaru Visit. I haven't had
they're 7-passenger concept.
Right, exactly. Yeah. That's
they're claiming that's going to be their biggest Subaru ever. I mean, it's a concept now, but eventually it will be their biggest Subaru.
Like a Tribeca replacement, but bigger.
Right. So, again, on the SUV, large vehicle concept. But versatility comes in many sizes, as we know. And so Ford has the EcoSport for North America. So that'll be interesting, and there's other competition in that segment.
Yeah,
already.
So they have the CX3 and the Trax, everything.
HRV.
Yeah, right. So they want to bring. They had already had it overseas, so it was an easy decision for them to just say, well, let's get it over here now and start selling it.
Sure.
And it's honestly not it fits in that category. It's small, it's cheap, it's efficient. It doesn't strike any Doesn't strike me as a very exciting car, but I'm sure
it's got sport in the name, Greg.
Yeah, but I did notice that they said that this one will actually have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which for a while Ford was not. They weren't hopping on that train, but now it seems like they might be doing that. So yeah, it's. I feel like that's a placeholder for them until they can really develop something for this specific market, if they even go that direction. But
I noticed that too. It's not so much a size, but they have a lot of technology in there.
It's for young people.
Sure
it's for people around my age who want a new car. Yeah, Brian Robinson hates them. Yeah.
Kids
but
or
we are
young people, or
we will not be ignored. We are around, and we're going to buy cars, and we need them to have very specific things.
Right. Did I read somewhere that it's built on the Fiesta platform, or am I totally off on that?
That would make sense.
I believe it is because it has the same powertrain. It still has a 1-liter 3-cylinder engine. You can get a 2-liter. For 4-wheel drive.
So I think it's good. It's another option if you're looking for something that size.
Yeah, and then let's see. We'll go back to more luxury. We had a Mercedes-Benz came out with their S650, their Maybach Cabriolet.
Right. Beautiful.
Which is just, huge, luxurious.
Right.
But more exciting for me was their E63 AMG. That has their newest version of the 4-liter turbo engine and now uses a twin-scroll turbocharger. kicks out 563, but if you go up to the S, you're getting over 600 horsepower. That's 3.3 seconds to 60.
That was a coupe or sedan?
That's a sedan. And it is a very powerful car. And I really look forward to driving that one. You can get the first edition, which comes out with a special trim package, or a special trim of like matte paint and black trim. You get carbon ceramic standard on that first edition. But they also have a new 4MATIC all-wheel drive system. And one of the problems that people had with AMGs and that 4MATIC was that you couldn't get those cool smoky burnouts that a lot of degenerates like myself like. And but now if you go into a race setting, it'll actually completely decouple the front axle. So you can go full rear-wheel drive.
Okay.
Up until a point where if you really get out of sorts, it will recouple and kind of save your backside. But yeah, that's a step in the right direction. Now it's constantly varying torque split. It used to be a set torque from rear to front, I believe. Obviously, biasing towards the rear. Now it's constantly changing that. So it's really, it should perform better on the track.
Right. And the Mercedes display is huge there. It seems like they brought every single vehicle that
they
ever made.
They always have everything there. And then things that, you want to say that are new but really aren't. They've had them for a while, but they're all out there to get your hands on and jump inside.
Right. And the Maybach is definitely something you want to see, but it's in the back of the display, back in the corner.
Right.
Well, it's like the milk in the grocery store. So you have to walk through everything else to pick up on your way back to what you need.
All right. Well, I'm sure that's what they were thinking when they set it up. Anyway, it's worth looking for, and it's worth getting back there looking for it.
Yeah, and then some more practical stuff. We've been seeing the CHR in one form or another from Toyota or Scion. Now that Scion's gone, the CHR is now in a U.S. spec. We've seen that for the first time here now. Brings over some of that Scion styling. It's funky, quirky, smaller. It's going to compete with the HRV and smaller subcompacts like that. Let's see, Chevy Spark Active.
Right.
Things like that. What else we have?
Honda Civic Si.
Yeah,
there was a prototype.
The prototype. Yeah, but essentially for Honda means it's basically that's what it's going to be.
Okay. And they're saying this is their fastest SI.
Fastest so SI, but it falls right between their Sport and their Type R. The Type R at the top end, and then Sport at the lower end. Yeah, so that's something to look forward to. This is always kind of a green show too, so a lot of focus on fuel efficiency. The Green Car of the Year award went to the Chevrolet Bolt, which I don't think was a major surprise there. But they had plug-ins available, so the Cadillac CT6 is going to be available in a plug-in. You've got the revised e-Golf.
Yeah, with more range.
Up on range.
I think a couple of manufacturers would get press releases saying they had boosted their range or whatever while they're out there. So I don't know.
Yeah, but oddly enough, the Smart Electric is, I think it's, I forget what the original range was, but it's only at like 80 now, so it wasn't really a huge
I think it was only 60 some before.
Yeah, so they did boost it a little bit, but it's still falling behind everything else at this point.
But, you could say that about Smart in general.
But that's it's a city car, so your distance-wise, you may not be traveling as far.
Right. Well, I certainly see them outside the city, so I feel like we should make a rule and make them stay within. There should be like an electric shock collar like they have for dogs. So if you get outside of certain limits, then you should get a little shock.
I haven't driven the electric one, but it was fun when I did a few weeks ago, the Cabrio, and like I said, it was fun. I was impressed. And
sounds like we're getting to the bottom of the barrel here.
Yeah, I mean,
anything else on your list there?
I do. Land Rover Discovery. They had an interesting event there. It's showing off their tow assist technology, where if you have a trailer and you're trying to back it up, you're basically steering it from the screen and the control in the console, and your foot on the gas. The car is steering it itself, and it was really very interesting. I could do it twice. First time was okay. Second time, I got a feel for it. What made it even more interesting was that the discoveries they brought over were British spec, so the steering wheel was on the right hand side. So that made it a little bit more interesting. But it was just I thought it was good technology. You're basically just lining up the trailer with where you want to go, and you've already plugged in the dimensions of the trailer for that. So, and again, it's assist. You are still doing it. It's not doing it for you. But
I think Ford's got something like that in the F-150.
right, they were talking about that too. But it was nice to. I mean, I think car shows are great, but if you can't actually get behind the wheel, that takes a little bit of the fun of it. So that was nice to be able to do that.
Yeah, I'm going over the list here. You'll have to excuse me because this is the second year in a row I've pretty much gotten right off the plane and came in to talk about it.
And you're
Panamera made its debut here.
Right.
You get a long wheelbase, or there's a new standard V6 engine.
And a lot of interest in that one, too. That one, if you
that's
didn't get
always a
in
big
early.
They always have a pretty cool display. They have a lot of their race cars and stuff available to look at, but it's always hot in there. My God, is it hot in there? Because they have at least
the cards on the temperature.
In previous years, the lights coming down. That's neither here nor there.
Right. But that one, if you do go to the LA Auto Show, you have to look for it because they're
tucked
separate.
Away in the back,
they're tucked away.
They like to keep themselves separated from the commoners.
They are a Porsche.
Right, exactly.
All right,
Greg.
I got a couple I was trying to wrap this up, but all right.
Cadillac.
You got somewhere to be? Yeah.
I do.
Didn't you do the Cadillac?
The Escala. Yeah, the concept. I mean, that was just out there for everybody to look at. And I can't remember if that was debuted at another show.
I think, wasn't that at Pebble Beach?
Yeah, probably. Because it was pretty much wide out in the open. Honestly, I don't know much about it. I just saw it on my way to another car.
Right.
I think Garick just wanted to say that, Escala.
Yeah.
I did. Well, because I didn't get a chance to get a really good look at it either. But, Escala.
Before we wrap up, Genesis G80 Sport is a new trim level for the G80. That whole G80 lineup was refreshed, but now the Sport gets the twin turbo from the G90. Audi A5 S5 Sportback is coming to the States, which is always cool. Nissan had some interesting stuff. They did the Sentra Nismo, so they have their turbo, which is now a Nismo. You can get still the 6-speed manual, turbo motor, just different styling, things like that. Right. And then their Rogue, they have a Star Wars special edition, and that was probably one of the grander intros that I'd seen there with stormtroopers coming out and everything.
And fire.
So, you can get so you get two colors, black or white.
Right.
Only 4,000 are coming to the United States, and if you get one, you get a special Death Trooper replica helmet, which is the only way you can get a Lucas.
Sure. Wow.
I guess confirmed replica helmet, which is cool.
Right.
So that was. We could probably go through a little bit more, but I think that was the gist of the show.
Sure, and that was an impressive display. I mean, I was maybe 2 rows back. I could still feel the heat from the flames. So.
Very cool.
It was, and again, a lot of interest. Even hours later, there were still people around.
Plus, they had a TIE fighter. Not sure how to scale it was, but that was my first picture.
All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for all that wonderful information.
My pleasure.
Come back anytime.
From the LA Automobility, what was it?
Automobility
LA. Show.
Yeah.
All right. Appreciate that. Quick thanks to Bob Mixter, our podcast creator, and Jim Bigwood, of course, our audio engineer. Be sure to check us out on all the usual social media outlets. Our crack social media staff is constantly updating you with lots of good stuff on there.
He's not in here, by the way. We're certainly not looking at him behind the camera.
And that's it for Podcast 151, and that's it.
Time to take a nap.
You have been listening to the podcast of MotorWeek, television's original automotive magazine. MotorWeek is made possible by TireRack.com. For additional information on podcasts, videos, and showtimes, visit our website at motorweek.org. And watch MotorWeek, television's longest-running automotive magazine series, each week on your local PBS station.